So we're going to start with our first meeting before we get to our county, our Board of County Commissioners meeting. This meeting is our Board of Directors of the Municipal Building Authority of Utah County. And we have two items on our agenda. The first one is to approve and authorize myself to execute a form, and the second one is to approve and authorize a resolution amending the written procedures of the governing electronic meetings of Municipal Building Authority of Utah County. This second one was so that we can, as the waiver for this COVID-19, the state has given us the ability to be able to meet if needed without having an in-person.
I can't hear anything anymore, Commissioner Lee.
Sorry. Should I get closer? Is that better?
There you go. Now I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I was not leaning into it. So again, the first one is to approve and authorize myself to execute a form on this agenda, and the second one is to approve a resolution amending the written procedures governing the electronic meetings with the laxing of open meetings so that we can have individuals, if needed, without an anchor person. So any questions to those?
No questions. I move that we approve agenda item number 1 and 2.
Is there a second? I don't know if you heard that, Commissioner Ivey. Is there a second?
Yes, second. I didn't hear the motion. Sorry.
Okay. It was to approve and authorize and to approve the resolution as stated on our agenda. So with a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
That passes 3-0. And maybe a final motion?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye? We're now adjourned from that. We'll move into our Board of County Commission meeting.
Maybe that one's off. Is this one better? Commissioner Ivey, can you hear me? Yeah. Commissioner Ivey, can you hear?
I was turning this one back on.
I can hear the speaker.
Yeah, I can hear this one. I can't hear it over there, though.
Oh, maybe because this is on. That one's. This one is working. And I'll use this one. This one is working well. Okay, there we go.
There
That
I can
works.
hear you now, Danny.
Okay. We're going to move right into the commission agenda. We have (21) items on our published consent agenda, 8 items on our published regular agenda, and 5 different work session items. Everything, if not held for discussion, will be approved and moved to our consent agenda and approved. My first comment is we can strike consent agenda item number 5. My understanding is that's not quite ready.
Yes. I understand that, too.
Would Commissioner Rob Moore, County Attorney's Office, would you prefer to strike it or continue it to April 15th? It's your call. With anticipating a new document before then.
Yeah, as long as we anticipate a new document, it doesn't matter.
I think
to me.
that's how it got back on there. This is Richard Nilsson. I think that's how it got back on there. It had been continued before, and then it come around to the date that was on, and we just hadn't got the new document ready yet.
You know what? Because I actually think this isn't just like some minor changes. We still need to negotiate a lease and determine if we're going to move forward. I would entertain a motion to well, I guess we don't need to have a motion. I would just prefer we strike this.
Sure, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm good with striking it.
If there's nothing else between until 10, I'll mark 10 to hold for
So
discussion.
a note on number 8, I can't get that document to open.
Okay.
Try again right here.
Yep, I have the same issue at the moment.
Yeah, it says page not found.
Do you wanna hold that to see if we can get answers? Do you
I
wanna
will try to
continue it?
re-upload that.
Yeah, I don't mind holding it. I mean, I don't see really any issue with it. It was just that I couldn't review the document.
So we can hold that, see if we can get any clarity of what's happening with that. Let's hold number 10. I have a very minor comment or just question about a couple of emails that were circulating on 11, so we'll hold 11. Those are the only ones I had on the consent agenda.
Could we hold, I've been talking with Richard Nelson. Could we hold number 12 for just one minor clarification?
Okay.
And then, again, on number 13, we might just need a little bit of clarification on the SF 424 and the SF 424B. Those are documents that came up. I could not get them to come up, but the rest came up. So I'm not sure. I mean, it's probably just some explanation of what they are. I don't see any problem with them, with the ones that I read through. But I'll look again to see if I can get them to pull up.
Okay.
Nope, those two are still not coming up. So if we could, who's doing this one? This is Richard. So Richard, if you could look at that one as well, number 13.
On 13?
Yeah, the first two documents, the FF 424 and the SF 424B.
Okay, we'll see if we can get both of those to upload and, so you can look at them.
Okay. So if we could just hold that as well.
Any others on consent?
None for me that haven't already been covered.
Okay, on the regular agenda, I would hold number 2 and 3.
All right, can we hold number 1 as well, just for action?
Okay. If nothing else, then all of those items that, unless it was held for discussion, they're now being approved, moved to consent and approved. I'll suspend that for a moment. Is there any public comment on any of those items?
Public comment on any of those items.
Okay, seeing none, those are approved on consent, and we'll move to those we held. The first of which is number 8.
Commissioner, we're working on trying to get the document re-uploaded for you. I'll give you a quick rundown on what it is. This is on the signal at 340 South and Woodland Hills Drive in the Salem area next to the new middle school that's being constructed. We had a contract with Civil Science to do the signal design. This is to complete that design and get it till we actually have a bid package to take out to like a Cache Valley Electric, Hamilton Brothers, somebody like that will actually put the signal in place. Also the school zone signs that will go in with this signal on either end of it prior to that. So this is a change order of that original document with Civil Science to have them complete the drawing so we can actually take it out to bid.
I can't get it pulled up independently.
Hold on.
It's number 8. G.
Oh. Okay.
Richard, this is Rob Moore, County Attorney's Office. On number 8
Okay.
on consent, I was able to pull it up on my email. I could not get it to open as a PDF, but I could get it to open as a preview. We may be having some difficulties with our internet here right now. Mine keeps kicking off and on.
Okay, I tried to pull it up off the agenda system, and it wouldn't let me pull it up either. Gina's trying to reload it right now on a different computer, so.
So I'm showing him right now what I have on my email from Glenn.
Okay.
Another $3,500 for additional.
Yeah.
And I've just shown the commissioners.
So this is the one where we acquired some property, correct?
It's just down the street from there. The property acquisition was not for the signal, but it was adjacent to that.
Okay, so this was all part of the plan, or is this in addition to, because this is to a change order based off of what original contract?
That we had an original contract with Civil Science. It's agreement number 2018-564 that did the initial signal design and intersection design, and this will complete the signal design and give us the bid package that we can then take out to bid to have the signal installed.
I see, okay.
Okay, I would entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion that we approve and authorize the signing of a change order number 1 as agreed to in number 8 on our published,
Second?
Consent agenda, yeah.
consent agenda. Yeah.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye, that
Aye.
passes 3-0. Number 10. Richard, this one is also yours. I just had a question about, tell me what these promotional products really are for.
This is the stuff that we buy for the Stormwater Coalition that we're the fiscal agent for. This is stuff that the cities use in their booths for, when they have the city celebrations to pass out to the public that talks about stormwater. It's the education portion of the stormwater permit that we're required to do as part of the municipal stormwater program that we're part of with that Stormwater Coalition.
And as I understand, Richard, there's not county funds that are used for this.
Very, very small portion. There's a couple $100 a year is all we put into it. Everything else is city funds.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in this environment, these items that are listed on here, they don't seem the most essential, but it sounds like this is a kind of ongoing practice, and really the cities are funding the most of these, and it's your understanding
That's correct.
that
And
the
it
cities
would
want
be-
these?
the anticipation would be they'll use them at their city celebrations later on in the summer. Hopefully this will be resolved by that point.
Okay. All right, I would entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion that we approve and authorize the signing of the agreement between Utah County and the Wasatch Promotional Products as stated in number 10 on our published consent agenda.
Second?
We have a motion and a second on number 10. All in favor say aye.
Aye?
Aye, that passes. Oh, sorry, I didn't hear Commissioner Ivey. Did you cast your vote, Commissioner Ivey?
Yeah, aye. Sorry if you didn't hear that.
Sorry, my fault. That passes 3-0. Number 11. Personally, I'm fine with the vehicle policy changes as I've reviewed them. We can hold this open for discussion. I don't know if anyone else wanted to, but I noticed that it's the resolution or the language here on this item still references a travel policy, and so does the resolution. I think there's no travel policy associated any longer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner, this is Court Commissioner. I I reviewed that today and saw that the resolution also referred to the travel policy, and I don't believe in looking at taking a second look at the sheriff's policy and the travel policy, that the travel policy needs to be amended. So I would recommend that going forward with the resolution being amended to strike any reference to the travel policy.
I do have some concerns I'd like to voice and maybe go down through if you want to pull it open and look at it. I'll read down through them. You can kind of mark them as I go. Give you a second to get there.
That's all right.
If you look under the authorized vehicle and equipment use, number two, it talks about the departmental car pool vehicle assignment, and as you go down through that, it does say that the departments shall be required to utilize each assigned pool vehicle in the performance of the official county business to continue to maintain said pool vehicles. And it has Public Works in consultation with the department shall assign, and the county commission shall approve. I want to change the shall to a may or may not, giving us the opportunity to either approve or not that it's just a shall in there. And then
Well, yeah, or just subject to the approval of the.
subject to the approval, however the wording is, it's, you know. And then if you go to the next page, this is still under the same heading, and it is number 5. I think that the change where it says from to form doesn't make any sense to me. Now, maybe that's a legal term, I don't know, but I think it should be from alcohol, not form alcohol. It may just be a typo in there, but you see that?
That's correct, Commissioner. That was one of the typos I indicated on the note I posted to the agenda.
Okay. And then under number 3, use of county vehicles by employees. Number 1, it says those employees or officials who have been authorized by and it strikes out Board of County Commissioners, and it says department heads or designee. I still think the Board of County Commissioners need to be inserted in there. So it could be Board of County Commissioners with the department heads or designee. Then moving to number 4, authorized passengers in county vehicles. And if we look at number 5 on that, it says, it changes from class of passengers, and it says passengers specifically approved by the department head. A lot of this all the way through here is kind of confusing to me. You'll see as I go down through, I'm going to recommend that we strike that number 5. If we go to number 5, on-call employees, it says employees on-call as defined in section G of the Utah County Pay Plan, and who are also required as a part of their on-call duties to travel in or remain in the immediate proximity of their county vehicles in order to immediately report for duty or immediately respond to emergencies while on call. And then afterwards it says, may permit their spouses and children to ride as passengers. I'm having problems with that. And I would prefer that we just probably put a period after that they have the ability as on-call to use their vehicles, and maybe after the very ending of the on-call, we put something in there that says they can use them in their immediate proximity as determined where their immediate proximity boundaries are, so they can stay close as on-call. Under number 6, unauthorized use of county vehicles and motorized equipment, number 1, at the very beginning it says use of county vehicles and or motorized equipment for purposes not germane to Utah County. Business is prohibited. Examples include, and then we give example in like number 1 where it says use of county vehicles or their motorized equipment to transport family members and employees or private citizens for personal business or recreation is prohibited. So it's a prohibited use. And then we put this clause in there, it says, unless authorized by the department head or designee for immediate family members while on call, I'll point back to the on-call, or for approved off-duty county vehicle use, we put in there what we're looking for, and then we automatically turn right around and make it so vague that we don't have any idea what's going on with it. So I'd recommend that we strike the unless authorized by department heads and just put a period after that.
Or perhaps unless otherwise mentioned in this, right? Because, or there are some exceptions, like you're saying, it's just already included in another section.
So if we come, yes, and that's a good point, because I think that we do put down here, you know, like on number 3, let's see if I make sure I get you in the right area. Again, under the unauthorized use of county vehicles and motorized equipment, that section under number 3, we talk about, you know, we shouldn't be doing travel to entertainment facilities, sightseeing, transportation of family members. So it states it again. We're not supposed to be transporting family members, dependent, or friends to school, daycare, medical equipment, or medical appointments, social events, and other personal activities. And then it says, without department head approval. I don't know how we track that, trace that. I don't know how approval's given. There's nothing in here that says where that would be. And as we continue down through, it kind of clears up a little bit that there are exceptions that can be given, you know, here and there. But I would recommend that we'd strike that last part without department head approval. And then a number, let's see, 7, off-duty vehicle use, county vehicle use. And Court, you've probably done a little bit of this. There's some formatting issues on here, 1, 2, and 2. It does have, which I'm okay with, but I wanted to point it out, that it does allow for supervisors shall approve only such off-duty office related uses as court appearances, training sessions. Those make sense to me. They make sense because, you know, they're going down through it. They're going to a court appearance. We could argue that it's probably a business related, but they may be off-duty of such. And then it continues on through and talks about a 10, 11, they're responding as personnel. So I'm okay with that section, but it does give the supervisors the ability, you know, to give some of that. And then on number 5, it says employees traveling to and from an approved office-related out-of-county training seminar session or seminar may permit a spouse or children to travel as passengers in county vehicles. I would prefer that we would put in there that a not in there may not permit the spouse or children to travel as passengers in county vehicles. In many respects, if we're going out of county, a lot of times we have employees that are going out of county, and they're not the only ones that are going out of county. There might be others that are in there, and it would seem to me that we should be taking individuals with one car with multiple county employees. But if we're filling them up with spouses and children, that does not make any sense to me. And of course, and then have, again, subject to approval from the employee's department head. I scratched that on there. There was one part in here, and I couldn't find it, but Court would probably know where it's at, where it talks about that Public Works will give us a semi-annual list or reference to the use of vehicles. I would think that we'd want to see that list on an annual and a semi-annual, so twice a year. Just see the list.
Yeah, that's in part 2, number 2. And I think you already referenced that. Let's see. Oh, it's 2C. 2C, right under the one you previously mentioned.
Yeah, semi-annual would include both.
Semi-annual, okay, so as long as we have 6 months in there, you know, we can review them. Those are, again, some of my concern on this, or some of the reasons why I think that as the elected officials, the use of vehicles, and just for reference purposes, after we saw this on a training session, I went back to our insurance, and I asked them for a little bit of information and guidance on that. They sent me to a webinar where I spent about 2 hours going down through and listening to what others do on their fleet management and how to structure it in such a way that it gives protections. And they just pointed out, if you put things in policy and then give broad exceptions to all of them, you're opening yourself up to a whole bunch of problems. So that's the reason why I went through and kind of scrutinized this.
And I think Richard and the sheriff might want to talk to some of these items.
I think this is Glenn Tanner from Public Works. I think when we went through this policy, I think our goal was to try and get it so that during circumstances where there is a different issue outside the norm, the department had to have the ability to review that, and they could get permission to address those independent issues as they come along. Hence the reason you see department head approval in there so frequently.
Well, and I think that's being considered. There is a one-time use that is left in there, and it allows the department head to say, for efficiency matters or so forth, they can say, go ahead and take a vehicle home so that you can be able to get up the next morning and go, or whatever the case may be. It does already contemplate that, as I see it.
I mean, there's a couple of options here. We could certainly pause and hear comments from Sheriff Smith, Richard, Glenn, or we could just take these comments that have been made and see if we can't get a draft that reflects those, involve our insurance carrier, and have that revised draft come back for approval. You know, and in that process, we can also get the feedback from the Sheriff's Department and Public Works.
Yeah, and so Commissioner Haynes, I had a similar feeling. Commissioner Lee, I think you brought up some valid points and stuff as you worked down through that. Some of the things I had questions on as well for today, and I was wondering if it wouldn't be best if we just had the version we currently had, if Court could kind of clean it up with the comments he'd made earlier. And then, Commissioner Lee, if you maybe wanted to submit a red line version with your changes, so that we could have that discussion. To me, that would make the most sense, because I think it's important that we get this right.
Right. Absolutely.
And that
I'm glad to do that.
we make sure that we're good with our insurance company, that we have some flexibility for truly extenuating circumstances, where it's going through their proper approval channels, but that we're also not just having it be a free-for-all kind of a deal. So I think it's really appropriate on this one to get the right balance.
So, I mean, I'd be willing to put a motion out there then that we, see, our next meeting is the 15th.
Is that what it is? Okay.
I think we should be able to do that before the next meeting. I'll make a motion that we continue this to April 15th. Oh, item
Second.
number, whatever, 11.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to continue item 11 till April 15th. All in favor say aye.
Aye?
Aye. That passes 3-0. Number 12, Commissioner Lee.
Oh, okay. On number 12, and reading down through the interlocal agreement, I'm fine with that. I talked with Richard about it, and I think, Richard, we were in agreement. There's some wording in there. This is kind of a template that they give us. It says on refunding, and Richard, you can please jump in, because there's really not going to be a refunding. This is kind of a template.
Right, that's
been
under
put
section
out there.
6, sub 8, E.
So I don't have a problem if we just want to strike that section. If we want to leave that section in for whatever purposes, then I would propose that we take Mountain Land out of their name out of that section, because it's county funds. It's not Mountain Lands and Utah County's funds. It's Utah County's funds.
I think that'd be the appropriate thing to do. Then if there is some reason why there are surplus funds, it's covered that it comes back to the county.
Okay?
So that's the only recommendation, is to remove that from, what number is that again? That's,
It's
eight.
eight,
It is,
subsection eight E.
six.
Or six,
Subsection
8E.
8E.
6-8E.
It's on page 6 of 12.
Okay. That was it for it.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution authorizing the commissioner's chair to sign the interlocal agreement with Spanish Fork with the removal in 6-8E of mountain lands right before Utah County as the, if there was possible refunding of money.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second on 12. All in favor say aye.
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 That passes 3-0. Back to number 13. It sounds like this one was just a document issue.
Yeah, there's actually 6 different documents with NRCS. This has to do with the watershed ops monies that we're looking for. 2 of the documents, apparently you couldn't see, the 424B and 424. We've reloaded those. Let me see if I can find them right here. I can tell you what they are.
If you could just kind of go through them, that would be great. Tell us what they're doing. I'll see.
Yeah,
if I pull
the
up.
424 is just the application for the funds.
Okay.
Basically says that we're looking for the funds to do the watershed ops. What they call the plan EA, the first step of the watershed ops that NRCS funds. That's in the amount of $988,000 from the federal government. They pay the full amount on that. The 424B, let's see, that is D. Let me find the right document for you here. Too many different federal documents. There's one that just says that we'll follow all the construction programs that the federal government has in place related to these funds. One that says that we don't have any felony convictions. One that says that we're not tax delinquent if we're a corporate entity, and one that says that we're not a lobbyist to the federal government
Right.
in trying to get these funds.
And this is for the fire.
We
right?
are in fact
Fire
the local
restoration.
government.
This is for fire restoration.
Sorry, say that again.
Is this for fire restoration with the watershed?
This is for the with the EWP, that was the fire restoration money that we originally went for. There were some of those that they had us pull out of the emergency watershed program and apply for the funds for through watershed ops, which is a different
Right.
funding source with
Okay.
NRCS. It is all tied to the fire area. It's just a different funding source that we're trying to get money from as well.
This is the one that is the long-term one. We had the first
Correct.
one, which was the short-term. This was the long-term.
Correct.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Richard.
I think we had all of these same forms when we did the watershed protection, the EWP program, but this is now for the watershed ops.
Commissioner, can I ask a question of Richard? So Commissioner Rob Moore, County Attorney's Office, I see on these forms, the form itself has an expiration date of the form of 8/31/2016. Do we know if this is the most recent form that we need to fill out?
It's the form that they sent us,
Okay,
so we got these from NRCS about a month ago.
okay. I just wanted to verify that while I had you. Thank you.
Okay. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve number 13 as stated.
Consent, or consent agenda 13. Second.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second to approve item number 13. All in favor say aye.
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 That passes 3-0. Okay, we are on to our regular agenda. Item number 1. I think this was held just to take action.
I'll make a motion that we set, and Commissioner Ivey, if you want to jump in, I don't know if it's usually easier if you're here, but do you want me to make this motion? Or
Yeah,
do you
no,
want
that's fine. Just,
Okay.
you know, I thought Tanner was the only one going to be there, so I'm glad that you're not in quarantine like me. So
Okay, yeah. I'll make a motion that we set a public hearing to consider the Vivian Park homeowners application as stated in number 1 on our regular agenda. And this is
Second.
for May 6th. And just for clarification, we said it before, but we had to set it to May 6th for the legal requirements.
Yes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for regular agenda item number 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes 3-0. I held items 2 and 3 here. I do see Patrick in the room. I just have a question as to, given that we kind of have a hiring freeze, we have a lot of our workforce working remotely at the moment, seems like an odd time to try to onboard folks when we're in kind of a remote environment. And so I wanted to hear your perspective of how timely these are, and maybe you can respond to that.
Sure. Patrick Warrow, the Information Systems Director. We actually don't have immediate plans to start the hiring process for these necessarily, but we want to be ready as soon as, that is available. Because we have lots of projects we'd like to work on. We need the extra manpower. When we initiated this, it was maybe 6 weeks ago, but then I decided I'd be better off rewriting the job descriptions to modernize them and bring them in line. That set us back a few weeks, and then we found ourselves here in the current crisis. It's just kind of going ahead. We aren't planning on opening these until the hiring freeze is released, but at least we'd have the staffing plan changed so we could.
Patrick, can you
Get
make
those-
sure you're speaking into the mic? You keep cutting in and out on me.
Sorry about that. As I mentioned, we had these about ready to go maybe 6 weeks ago, but I decided I wanted to rework the job description because I wanted to have a clear, more modernized job descriptions throughout my department. They're now ready to go, but we don't plan on recruiting right now for either of these two positions. The first one, from item 2, would be an internal hire because we would be removing a programmer 3 position and converting that to a programmer 4. So that wouldn't require hiring anybody from outside, and we may decide to move ahead with that with your approval. But with the other 2 positions, they're budgeted for this year. We wanted to make sure that we had good job descriptions, and now they're ready. We just would like to adjust our staffing plan so that when the hiring freeze is lifted and maybe we're a little ways down the road, we can move on them as quickly as possible. Does that answer?
And tell me, do you already, in your wage and benefits budget, do you already have funding for these positions?
Mm-hmm. They're fully funded. Yep.
Okay. If that's the case, I mean, personally, I would be okay with these changes, with knowing that the hiring freeze, which is a stronger term than necessarily we're using at the moment, but
Right.
we're asking everyone to be very careful, and we are approving any additional hires. As long as that remains in place, I would be okay with this.
So would it be okay then to, in the motion, say that we approve this, but the action taken on this will not happen until after the hiring freeze has been lifted?
Sure. I mean, that would be the case anyways, so
Yeah.
sure, it wouldn't have any real effect on me. Sure.
Well, but there is a distinction there that I think is important. That would apply to even the internal changes.
Yeah, item 2, I guess, would be a little bit different because we would anticipate hiring that by promoting someone already on staff. So we wouldn't be bringing someone in that case. So we would like the flexibility to do that if we decided to do that, if possible.
This is Ralph in HR. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So with the internal, postings, we have been allowing those because they do not incur, any sort of increase in headcount, during this time. So we have been allowing those to go forward. And and these are added to the, this is just an action to add these into the staffing plan officially. The, item 3 would still need to have, the approval to go forward because it's going to be an external hire.
Sure. I do think though, Ralph, I mean, there are multiple reasons for putting some restrictions on staffing plan changes right now. One is obviously we do not want to add headcount while we're dealing with COVID-19 issues and we've got people working remotely. It's just a hard time for onboarding. The other is we do have uncertainty in our budget this year related to sales tax revenue and other consequences of this crisis. And so I think even the internal promotions, it's worth asking the question whether we should have a hold on those as well.
And I would concur with that, and a couple of reasons, because we don't know what's going to happen internally either. So you hate to give a promotion and then you're sitting at home. I would almost prefer that we, if that case was to come up, I would almost prefer that we hold, even to Ralph's, with others that are coming up, we hold that line pretty steady all the way through.
I could certainly understand those concerns. I would say a couple of things maybe to consider, though. Majority of my programmers are working from home now, and they are functioning at a very high level. And even if, in fact, 6 of my 9 that are here are working from home today and working very well in that situation. So that really wouldn't have an impact one way or another if they were promoted or not. They would probably be likely working from home anyway, at least the majority of the time. So
I think the point there was, though, Patrick, is we don't know. We have not yet been able to go through and analyze what our revenue is going to look. What we know is that we're going to collect less revenue than what we projected.
I can certainly understand
Right.
that, yeah.
And so if there's any scenario, and I'm not sure anyone is predicting this yet, where it requires some reductions, then wouldn't it be better to hold off on some of these promotions than
Sure.
to promote and immediately terminate?
Yeah, I only offered that as
Yeah.
something to consider.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion, well, actually, I'd like to make a motion that we continue number 2 and 3 without date, and we'll pull them back on at the time after our hiring freeze is over.
Okay. Sure.
I would support that.
Did you hear that second, Tanner?
Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, now I hear a second. Okay,
Okay.
we have a motion and a second to continue item 2 and 3 without date. All in favor say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
That passes 3-0. Okay, let's jump to our work session. The first work session item is Bryce Armstrong. I believe Community Development put this on, an ordinance to amend Chapter 3 of the Utah County Land Use Ordinance.
Bryce Armstrong, Community Development Staff. This is we kind of call a housekeeping exercise initiated by staff. From time to time, we'll go through the ordinance and identify sections that need clarified or need to be brought to be consistent with other sections of the ordinance, state laws, et cetera. And so we just started on Chapter 3 this time. We want to circle back and capture other sections as soon as we get we're waiting for the state legislative session to complete so we could capture any of those applicable changes. And so you'll be seeing others as we go forward. I'll just give you a really quick summary from the staff report of what this captures. in the different sections and then answer any questions you might have. Throughout the proposal, we have added the word lot or parcel when it refers to either lot or parcel. The state, I think last year, defined those differently. Previously, these were generally used interchangeably, and that's not always the case. And so we needed to represent them individually in most cases. And so you'll see that throughout, just kind of trying to be consistent with the state reference. Section 3-2 clarifies exceptions to required yard space, to namely include an exception for LPG tanks, liquid petroleum gas. A lot of times we'll have areas such as Sundance that have tighter lots that need to have an exception to that required yard space, similar to the other exceptions we've provided in the past, still subject to all applicable fire requirements.
What about the solar?
Oh, yeah, we added, if you recall, there was a provision to allow those in certain yard spaces, in yard spaces, subject to certain conditions of size. We've added a prohibition of in the front yard. Doesn't mean you can't have it in the front, period, but the yard space is 30 feet from the
Anyone who's speaking in the work session, if you could try to get a little closer to your mic for those listening
sure.
remotely.
And so any of those that are in the front can still be in the front, but we just have to be outside that yard space of that 30 feet. And so we will have some smaller lots, up, like I said, up in the Sundance area, that could potentially be an aesthetic issue. And so that was added, supported by the Planning Commission. 3-3 is basically just a reformatting of exceptions already in place. We just identified them as kind of a list rather than having a run-on sentence, just a formatting issue. Though that substantially stayed the same. 3-7 relates to when two properties are being combined that are owned by the same person, rather than have separate perimeter descriptions. The purpose is to treat it as one parcel, and so we wanted it to have a single outside perimeter boundary. So that was added. 3-8 clarifies non-conforming lots or parcels eligibility as dwelling units. We already contemplate a grandfathered situation to be able to be built on elsewhere in the ordinance, and always have. That just for some reason was omitted in this section over the years, and so I just clarified that you can also build a house on a grandfathered lot. 3-9 and 3.
Well, I gotta ask you a question on that one.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a scenario and then you tell me. It used to be that we had A1 zones, 1 acre lots, and if you have an A1 parcel with or without a house on it now, if somebody wanted to build on that, would they be able to build on that lot?
So yes and no. When the 1 acre zone was changed, actually in the late 70s, it was changed to a 40 acre or a true farm zone. The county commission gave property owners who had a non-conforming piece, like a 1 acre piece, 3 years to obtain a permit and build on. And then that went away, that option to protect the agricultural uses. So that's the only zone that we don't allow those in. If you recall recently, we've gone in and allowed certain non-conforming lots of record, so vacant lots in that scenario, if they're within a certain percentage of the 5 acre requirement. I don't have it right in front of me, but I think it was 85% or 90%, so like 4 acres.
So would that apply to, now let's say there's a house on there currently that was built during the A1 period in which it was. Now it's technically non-conforming but grandfathered in.
Correct.
Still listed as a non-conforming, but they can get loans and everything off of the
Absolutely.
non-conforming. But they want to substantially add to their house.
Correct. Yep.
They can still do
Yes.
that?
Yes. They could tear the house down and replace it. So this just addresses lots of record. Your scenario addresses non-conforming lots of record that haven't been built on.
Okay.
So, but anyway, this doesn't really change that. That just clarifies that those situations exist out in the county.
Okay.
Section 3-9, 3-10 clarify our recent amendment to allow accessory dwelling units. We had some provisions that say you can only have one house, and now we actually have an exception to that. So that was just capturing those. 3-11 is our section that requires access for occupied structures. And so we were clarifying in what scenarios you do need those, and then also under the exceptions, clarifying that certain gravel extractions can utilize a unpaved Class D county road. I think that was always intended, but we needed to explicitly state that. I think that we do want those, to capture those opportunities when possible to have those accesses off those existing county Class D roads.
Now, this wouldn't butt up against our agricultural, though, structures, right?
No.
Because you're just saying this is just for occupied.
Occupied structures.
Occupied, would it be considered occupied if they were in that structure and selling it as a fruit stand?
We have to clarify that with the building code, but currently, we don't contemplate that. They can have that and have a fruit stand without that frontage.
I'm just looking back at some of the challenges we've had in the
Sure.
past and making sure that we're not doubling
Yes,
in a
absolutely.
different direction.
In this process, we try and use our institutional knowledge to capture those scenarios and not exclude those that we feel are appropriate. So, good point. Last one is 3-14, just some more reformatting, and also, if you recall, several year or months ago, we added a agricultural repair operation that could be in the county, and so we wanted to contemplate a legally existing agricultural repair facility to have some outdoor storage of their equipment that's being repaired, subject to that section.
It's not gonna run in interference with the amount of vehicles or equipment out front that was up above. There was some language up above that talked about.
No, that was, this is talking specific, that was talking about junk and debris and obsolete vehicles. This is talking about actual certain rated commercial vehicles that are, to prevent them from being stored unless there's certain exceptions as listed. And so we're adding an additional exception to capture the agricultural operation.
Okay.
That's a quick summary.
I appreciate you doing this. This is certainly an item that should be on the work session. Appreciate your questions, Commissioner Lee. I did have some time to, I wasn't exactly sure how this one would work, trying to do our work sessions remotely. And so I had some time before to talk through this one.
Bryce, I only had just one follow-up question. I appreciate what you're doing here. On 3-7, where you're incorporating with a single perimeter boundary description, I guess my question there is, are we going to create confusion? Say an individual comes in, they buy two parcels of land that are currently operating as a single parcel. What kind of protections do we have in place to make sure that if we're having a single perimeter boundary description, that they're not crossing parcel boundaries when they're building, buildings and such and things like that? Do you see that as a potential problem with that being added in there with a single perimeter boundary description? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. I don't think so. I think what this overall section contemplates is someone who wants to memorialize, for lack of a better word, their two separate deeded parcels as one because they're using it as one. And so this actually gravitates it to avoid what you're referencing by requiring that we have a single perimeter description, they're deeded together, so it's clear it's being utilized as one parcel, and now they can take advantage of the property line description from the new consolidated outside boundary description.
Okay, and perfect. And I appreciate that clarification and that help, and that comment and question may have came from personal experience back in 2003. So I appreciate that clarification and trying to make that process easier for people when they have two particular parcels. But it's operating as one piece.
it would be interesting on that one to see how that runs into Board of Equalization when we're talking about parcels. And combining those and acting as one parcel, because when we go through Board of Equalization, we look at them on an individual parcel basis. And I can think of a school in particular, that it buys up pieces of property, uses it as one unit, and yet we look at their individual use to see if they're tax exempt or not.
So generally, this is something that is offered as an option if the property owner so chooses. I think it would, if they had two parcels that were individually used and recognized,
If we have 5 or 6
or
or
whatever,
10.
yeah, and they have all their different structures on each parcel, by definition, we have to respect each of those parcels, and they have to have setbacks, meet setbacks for each individual parcel. So this gives them the flexibility, if they so choose, to consolidate them as one piece, so we're clear that it's being used as one piece, and could utilize those new property boundaries for their setback. You know, there may be other scenarios that are independent of this land use ordinance that may need to be considered as they go through that choice.
Okay, thank you for that item on the work session. I actually think we need to take a quick pause in our work session. I think the conference bridge has been lost, so we're gonna take a few minutes to reestablish that.
Mr. Chair, that would
Okay.
mean that everybody needs to call back in, I believe. Is that what we're gonna do? We're gonna turn it off and turn it back on? So everybody who's on the telephone right now will be required to call back in, is that correct?
Try to stay on the line. I don't know what's going to happen. Try to stay on the line.
Commissioner Ainge, I was going to ask, because I just got a message from Mayor Johnson in Lehigh, and they were having a hard time getting on the phone to speak to work session number 5.
And
Correct.
Spanish Fork City's having the same issue.
Yeah, we know about that issue, and that's why we're gonna have recess.
Okay, quick recess.
So, to make it easier, I might just terminate this and start it again. I think I know what the